This is why everyone needs at least 10 quant, 100,000 HBAR, and 50,000 XDC tokens before 2025 and subsequently onwards as well, because these projects are absolute powerhouses that diversify a very strategic path moving into our financial future, and is one I want every single one of my current and future subscribers to at least be aware of. Now, by now, you guys all know about Quant and HBAR. I've made multiple videos on those, but I haven't really spoken about XDC. But today, I want to lay everything out to you and tell you specifically why buying these quantities of the tokens are actually going to be very beneficial moving forward. But of course, first of all, why HBAR, XDC, and QNT, you might be asking? Well, aside from their usual, marketing powers and the reasons why everyone raves on about them, enterprise grade friendly, private, Web3, one of a kind, solve real problems, TradeFi, etc., the real magic actually comes from not what they kind of have on show, but the back end, the connections. And I've always been told this my entire life. It's not what you know, it's who you know. And that will take you further than actually being someone, who knows a lot more. You can be a lot dumber than someone else, but if you have more connections with the right people and you're more friendly, well, you're going to get more, you're going to get higher in life. It's just as simple as that. And luckily for us, part of the main reason why I'm bringing these videos to you, or these projects to you rather, is because they are heavy into their respective areas and have very deep, well-established connections, right? It's all about the connections, okay? Now, let's talk a little bit about these connections, but first of all, I want to break it down a little bit finer for you people that don't know much about these projects, right? So HBAR, it's a new and improved DLT, right? Distributed ledger technology. It's like a blockchain, like a DAG, but it's different. It's a hash graph, right? There's a lot more that goes into it, of course, but we're just boiling it down to make the point of difference, okay? We have XDC. These guys are heavy, specifically in TradeFi, trade finance. This is international imports and exports. And of course, blockchain as well. We have Quant Network, right? Highly interoperable. Now, these are the current market caps as of today's date, 31st of May, 2023. And we have 1.6 billion for HBAR, 434 million for XDC Tiny, and 1.420, and no, I didn't make that up, billion for Quant Network, okay? But again, it's kind of like, okay, some of you might think to yourselves, hang on, Kyron, my meme coins and my other projects are 100 times better than this because they're so much lower market cap, they have so much more exposure. You guys are missing the point, and in a second I'm going to show you a slide that kind of highlights what I'm talking about. It's what I call my prosperity wheel, and will give you some indication into what I'm looking at here. I'm not looking at cryptocurrencies here. I'm looking at businesses making real world, impact, especially for the future, all right? So, 1 billion market cap respectively is a very, very tiny sort of market share for where these guys can really go. So let's talk about some of these connections, right? HBAR, Google, ServiceNow, Ubisoft, Avery Dennison, Boeing, and I've kind of glossed over these, and I will gloss over the rest as if they're nothing, but I think we all know the gravity of how big these companies are. And of course, there's a lot more that I couldn't obviously add onto this list. I mean, it's huge. I mean, you guys know some of these yourselves, okay? We're talking multi-billion-dollar quarterly revenue companies here, okay? We also have TFDI, or Trade Finance Distribution, R3/4, which is like an enterprise-grade blockchain service that is away from crypto. It doesn't have a crypto token, utility token, so it's not a crypto token, right? And these guys are heavily involved in some of the partners of TFDI. And by the way, XDC is the only crypto-esque partner of this sort of, I guess you could say, entity, which allows them to open up to all the trade finance, institutions, banks, insurers, import and exporters, international people, right? Commonwealth Bank of Australia, HSBC, and these guys over here in Africa, right? So there's a lot more obviously on this list, but the fact of the matter is they've partnered with two of the biggest sort of proponents of TradeFi. Okay, and that's kind of like where they're mainly focused. So lots of room to grow here, and they're like the biggest cryptocurrency heavily focused in this section. Now, of course, they're EVM compatible, they support Web3 applications, so on and so forth. We're going to touch more on that in a second, but obviously a very, very important list for what they are actually doing, okay? Now, we have Quant Network on the side here. Of course, you guys don't need any introduction here. They're actually sort of working with the Bank of England, Oracle, huge companies, UST, and LackChain. Need I say more, guys? Moral of the story is, untapped opportunity. There is so much happening here. It's not what you know, it's who you know. It's just a bonus. All these cryptocurrencies are actually do have great what you know, okay? Essentially back end, right? But I want to ask you a question here, okay? And I want you to really think about this, because some of you are hearing about these projects and going, no, we hear about it all the time, Karen. I don't want to, I don't want to know about it. Well, here's my question to you. You've seen the potential with your own eyes. You've seen how good these projects are, at least from the brief introductions I've given you. So I want you to compare this with your current top holdings and tell me why yours are better. Now, obviously, it's going to be silly if you talk to your camera, right, or your screen. But essentially, you guys need to sit there and think to yourselves, why have I placed my current investments over, let's just say, these 3 investments? Okay, and I'm going to go over price predictions on these in a second and kind of tie it all in. And you'll see very quickly, you might have to hold them for an extra few more years, but they're going to return a lot safer, return on investments, but are still going to be sort of the same multiples you're expecting with some of your smaller projects. Okay, so you need to ask yourself, what am I actually holding? What am I exposed to? And don't neglect this, guys. This is a very serious topic, and you're ultimately holding yourself back if you're investing in particularly dangerous cryptocurrencies when you don't want to be exposed to them. And another question I have for you is, what even is crypto? What determines a project as a cryptocurrency asset? And my question goes on because at the end of the day, guys, these projects are businesses first. The tokens are just for utility. Just like I spoke about a second ago with 𝗡cie𝗿𝗡𝗩𝗡, it's an enterprise blockchain solution. Well, so is XDC, so is Hedera in some ways. They just have public variations. So they just, 𝗡cie𝗿𝗡𝗩𝗡 just doesn't, it's not a cryptocurrency because it doesn't have a utility token, right? Public utility token. So I ask you, are we looking at cryptocurrencies here, or are they just, in a way, leveraging a utility token? And I say that they're businesses first. All of them are in their own unique ways. And if you look into them, they actually are. So what I'm doing here is I'm not really investing in crypto tech. In a way, it obviously is. It's cryptography. But what I'm actually investing in here is the vision, the business, just like you do with stocks, okay? Now, this is what we need to do, okay? So remember, focused on the projects that are businesses, not just crypto focused, right? And what I mean by this is my prosperity wheel. The further in you go, the faster your return on investment, how much you can make gains very, very rapidly. In a month, 2 months, 3 months, boom, it can go up really fast. That's where you have your Web3 degen stuff, Uniswap. Uniswap's a bit of a end scope of that. Obviously, it's a very large market cap, but we have like Doge coins, meme coins, things that are crypto specific. Degen might be the harsh word to use here. Web3 solutions, we also have then, so specific solutions for problems that we've created from this new industry, right? Moonbeam and Carver. And then we have Web3 solving Web2 ineffectively, at least right now, but they want to push out to the green circle, which is actual Web2 solutions right now. Quant is one of those examples, Render, but in this yellow ring, this is still good. Right, this is still good. And we have XDC and HBAR in this circle as well, Algorand, as you can see, but that's not discussed today. So essentially, we want to focus on projects wanting to push out to the green, already are on the green ring because they are solving real Web 2 solutions. And I don't care what anyone says, for Web 3 to become as big as Web 2, that's going to take very, very long. Okay, so it has to somehow incorporate itself into the existing systems as well as support Web 3. As far as I'm concerned, and these projects do that very effectively. As I said to you before, they're leveraging cryptocurrency for a utility token. They're public networks. They have private instances, or in Quant's case, they just connect to everything. So let's talk a little bit more about these projects individually and hopefully very quickly give you guys a little bit of an idea onto the potential return on investment. At the very end of this video, I'm going to give you everything summed up into a nice how much we invested and how much we can actually spit out in 2025 and beyond, okay? So HBAR, right, let's begin. Why 100,000 HBAR? Well, if we kind of round down to the somewhat recent price of 5 cents, that's about $5,000, okay? Yes, it is quite hefty. You'll find out why. 2021, that would have actually given you $57,000 at the tip, or the top of the bull market, rather. 2025, I'm expecting a conservative, and now I think it will, I shouldn't say conservative, I think it'll go probably tip out to $5 in the best situation possible. It could go more, could go a bit less. But that's kind of my top of the range price prediction. So I think $3 is very reasonable. Therefore, you'd make 300K. And again, we're looking to the future as well, because that's when these projects will really take off, because they are looking to enter the Web 2 market. Therefore, they need some sort of clarity for the onboarding of their desired audience, right? Web 2 companies, businesses, enterprises, you know the deal, right? So that would actually put the price at $1.5 million. And that would kind of represent a $15 HBAR token. So you'd essentially, look at that multiples, guys. That's a lot. Now, again, we'll touch on kind of like the overall picture at the end of this video so you can get a very good idea of how many, multiples that actually is. Now, why HBAR? Well, they have a governing council which allows them to have expertise in a variety of international markets. This is huge. It's really actually, untapped opportunity as well. Attractiveness, so the hash graph itself is naturally fast and secure and handles all types of traffic. And that's just right now. They're planning on doing multiple things that will increase it. This is kind of like a stock car, for example. Now, complete market dominance. So Hashgraph is novel tech. It's the first one that was ever created, right? The creators of Hedera created the Hashgraph, meaning it is one of a kind and has no competitors. We see every other network now is a variation of a blockchain. Well, there's only one Hashgraph. Next up, let's take a look at XDC network, something we haven't really spoken about much on this channel. 50,000 XDC tokens. Why? Well, that's about $1,500 at the kind of recent 3-cent mark. Now, in 2021, that would have given you about $9,500 at the very top. 2025, $100,000. I'm estimating a $2. Okay, somewhat average on the top side of things price for XDC, but I really do think it will take off in the later years. In 2029, probably $550K, aka an $11 XDC token. Why? Well, trade finance is going to be king, or at least XDC is the king of trade finance. You can literally say either of those two things and I'd give you a pat on the back, right? XDC plans to liquefy, decentralize, and innovate international trade finance with a market of 1.7 trillion, that's right, with a T, in 2022 with secure and transparent transactions. So essentially, it's very hard. There's always an intermediary required for international trade fi, even through, of course, national, right, within the countries themselves. So there's always a third party required, an intermediary between obviously the exporters and importers, so on and so forth. And XDC can essentially do that through smart contracts, more specifically enforceable smart contracts, which we'll touch on right now. Ultimately, it just means that, well, you can trust the code rather than having to trust a third party, right? Smart contracts on the network are legally enforceable if they are required to be for clarity and business practices required for international settlements. I think you guys understand why that's important in this case, right? And of course, they can actually tokenize assets as well. So again, they are a blockchain. They got super fast finality. I think it's like 2 seconds. Super fast TPS, so on and so forth. Ultimately, they also do a really good job at TradeFi. Okay, number 3, we have Quant Network. Well, I'm saying get 10 Quant. What's 10 Quant worth roughly now? Well, it actually went a bit below $100 recently, but let's kind of use the average price. That's $1,000, okay, in 2021. That would have given you an okay $4,300, but Quant will actually really pick up steam, I think, in the later years, right? 2025, only 40K. I guess a 40X is pretty damn good if you ask me, right? And 2029, I'm expecting a $20,000 Quant token. Now, that's contingent on a few factors, just like the other 3 projects are as well. Specifically with Quant being adopted, it could go up to $50,000, $60,000, $70,000, $100,000 simply because supply and demand situation for this guy is extremely good. And also, it's looking like it potentially could be used within the UK economy for CBDCs. So let's talk a little bit more about that. Infinite applications, so legacy, crypto, private networks, API-related applications, no matter what it is, Quant can jump in there, connect to it, and flow all the information through its overledger network. It's not a blockchain, it's an operating system. Business to government, or B2G, right? Quant is capable of connecting governments to retail CBDCs without compromise. So right now they're working, and I don't want to go too much into this, they're working with the Bank of England, essentially planning to get a ledger, the Bank of England's ledger, right, in the private ledger, and connect that to all the different businesses running in the economy. And obviously they need a system that's going to be able to be agnostic with anything, meaning connect to anything, and Quant is looking like it might be that solution, okay, which is going to be very, very big for the supply shock rather. Also map businesses, so endless interoperability, endless possibilities, solely reliant on Quant. What are maps? Well, multi-chain applications, either the applications that build on top of the Quant overledger network that can connect to any network connected to Quant if they're given the permission to. So you can imagine there's going to be a hell of a lot of demand to be one of these map businesses. And the really beautiful thing is that actually benefits Quant because it's embedded. They're embedding themselves in Quant. They rely solely on Quant, and you can't pull Quant out of the business because ultimately, what other network in even Web 2 or Web 3 competes with Quant? None. So, they rely on quant to obviously stay functional, okay? So let's talk a little bit about the totals here. How much we've spent in this process, this hypothetical situation, and how much we've gained. Well, on the spent side, $5,000, $1,500, and $1,000. That's $7,500 in total at these average buy prices. And we come over to the gains, right? 2025. Well, as you can see, total all up, that's $440,000. That is a 59x. Pretty bloody good. That's life-changing to a lot of people. I know if I spent $7,500 on the stock market and came back in a couple of years and made that, I'd be bloody happy. But of course, price predictions are just that, price predictions. Now, we go to 2029, okay? As you can see, it definitely swells up, and we can see a 300x at $2.25 million. So you can see why waiting that little bit longer for projects like this is beneficial. And the great thing about projects like this is the longer you wait, the more exponential these gains become, because ultimately the crap projects you might be investing in right now are going to fade, and these good ones are going to only get better and better and more adopted in the future. Therefore, the token will be more used, and of course, well, Bob's your uncle. The price is going to go up, okay? And that's going to do it for today's video, guys. You can learn more about HBAR over here and learn more about QNT in the video on your right, because I haven't made a video thus far on XDC. That is coming very soon. But ultimately, I hope you have enjoyed today's video. Please leave a like, and I'm sorry if I stumbled a few times on this video. I know I definitely have. I'm still sick, and obviously I'm trying to fight back a cough 24/7. So I really appreciate you guys holding through that. All right, I'll talk to you soon. See ya.